Hi, welcome to Talking TV. I'm Patrick Day. I'm write about TV for the Los Angeles Times. I'm here with our Times TV critic Mary McNamara and reader engagement editor and TV fan Michelle Maltais. And today we are talking about Extant, which is the new CBS mystery, science fiction, thriller series. Guys, this show has everything. It's got an Oscar winner. It's got robot kids. It's got alien babies. It's got government. Steven Spielberg, government conspiracies.
It sounds like a Stefan Club, right?
Right. It's designed to be kind of an edge of your seat cliffhanger, serial thriller. Are you guys hooked?
I love it.
I'm hooked. It took maybe the second episode to really hook me. I was intrigued the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're on board.
Was there a particular twist or element that really got you finally?
It was seeing the strange baby move. That really, I gotta know what's in there.
Okay, well, for people who haven't watched Extant, and you should watch Extant, it revolves around an astronaut Molly, who's played by Halle Berry, and she's been in space for 13 months doing her little research, and then she comes back, and lo and behold, she is pregnant. And so the question is, how did she get pregnant? What is she pregnant with? Because while she was in space, she had a visit, a hallucination, she believes, but now we're thinking it wasn't a hallucination, and it was her old lover who is dead and who came back and who touched her belly, and now she's pregnant. So now we're trying to figure out, what kind of baby is this, and what is going to happen, and there's all sorts of, there's mystery and intrigue.
Yeah. Well, it takes place in the near future. We should also point out that it's not just the baby. That when she comes back, she has a robotic adopted son that her husband, who's an inventor, has designed and built.
Right, exactly. So you have an alien baby and a robot kid. So talk about like redefining the modern American family.
Right.
Totally crazy. But I love it. I mean, I think it's a really great show. Obviously, the headline was Halle Berry comes to television. This is, again, part of the great migration from film to TV, especially on a broadcast network. I'm also very excited, not just because her performance, I think, so far has been amazing, because, this is a show that could just be totally insane, but she manages to ground it, and she's a very real person. You believe, you believe the near future aspect. But she's still a very modern woman dealing with a lot of issues, including infertility. She couldn't get pregnant when she was on Earth. But also for me, it's really great to see, a big star coming to a sci-fi show, because as I have said ad nauseum, I'm so sick and tired of the snobbery shown by the Academy and other people, towards sci-fi shows. And I really feel like you have Halle Berry, grounding a show that everybody is really liking, and I think that will help maybe solve that issue.
Right.
And she's surrounded by people who bring a certain level of gravitas as well.
Absolutely.
It's a great cast.
The child is amazing. He's terrifying and intriguing, and
he's a great little actor.
It made me check my children.
There's a great cast. It's Cameron
Manheim,
Michael
O'Neill, who is always great.
Yes.
Yeah, and he's like playing the bad guy.
Yes, he plays her husband, the inventor, the scientist. So let's talk about the Ethan, who is the robotic child. This show is executive produced by Steven Spielberg, and I don't know if you guys ever saw his movie AI.
Oh yeah.
But there's a lot.
It scared me out of Parenthood.
There's a lot in this series that reminds me of AI, especially the boy. So we've seen several scenes where dead birds show up in the vicinity of this kid, and we've seen him trapping birds under flower pots. We're meant to think that maybe this kid, there's some wiring loose. What do you think? Do you think he's the real threat in this series?
Well, I think the director of ISEA is the real threat.
The bad guys who sent Halle Berry into space. Well, I think, it is really interesting. I mean, obviously there is the, usual tension of the robots taking over the world. We build an artificial intelligence and then they get sick of us, and so they move on. And that is actually addressed very early on, because this child is being, in the second episode, I think he goes to school, and you basically have like another parent saying, I don't want my real kid being around this crazy robot kid. But the argument that the father inventor makes is that this child is learning just the way a normal child is learning, that this artificial brain is, to all extents and purposes, is just a brain, and so it's like he needs the same kind of input. So I think that that's really interesting. That's something that science fiction basically grapples with. That's like the baseline argument, is like what makes what makes you human.
And the poignant exchange when the father is making the presentation to the board to try to get money to make more Ethans was, what's a soul? There was an argument about a soul, and one of the women was asking, well, what's the contingency plan if this robot goes nuts? He says, well, do you have a contingency plan to kill your child?
Right.
So I have no contingency plan to kill my child.
Which is very interesting. And it's like, and also, I mean, the issues that the kid is a little odd, and he doesn't, you can see that he's like, empathy is something that he's having to learn. And so you do see like these images, but it's also, there are kids, like, I mean, you have to teach your own child, a real child. It's like, you can't hit Bobby with a stick because it will, you can't hug your hamster so much that it can't breathe. I mean, these are issues, but because this is a robot child, everybody's like looking at it like, oh my God.
And he also has elements of being a child. He says, will you leave the nightlight on?
Right. But I also think he could end up being the hero of the piece, because you see, like, in one of the episodes, he made a drawing of his family on the spaceship, and his mom said, "Why? What is that?" And he said, "I want to save the family from becoming extinct." And so you do, because there is also this kind of uber plot of out there is some sort of race that is trying to infiltrate Earth, and possibly for extinction. And so then you think, oh, maybe this kid somehow, his computer brain will recognize another computer brain and save the world. So it's a really great little character, because you don't know. Is he the
good?
Seed of destruction, or is he going to be the hero of the piece?
Right. Now, they've set themselves up for an interesting challenge, and like one of the driving forces, at least for the first 3 episodes that we've seen, is that Halle Berry's pregnancy. But we obviously can't have her pregnant for 5 seasons on CBS.
So that baby's going to have to come out.
So at a certain point, we're going to have to see this kid. Do you think that is going to be the ultimate, threat to humanity, or do you think that's going to be, is that the thing that's going to supplant humans in the series, that cause them to go extinct?
I don't know, because like there's also like the businessman involved, and when they had an exchange and they said, well, the Michael O'Neill's character, who's the head of the space program, who obviously kind of knows what's going on, said, oh, I guess they are really out there. And then the businessman said, no, they're actually already here.
Yeah, what is the deal with Mr. Yasumoto? They pulled him out of a pod, right? He's almost ready. What is?
I don't know.
Right.
It's so crazy.
Partially dressed in some drape.
Around with little tiny things serving the food.
Yes, tasting, having a table's worth of tasting menu.
So
being very mysterious, and yet he's also a puppet master, because he holds money that then funds the father's research so that they can keep him close and keep Halle Berry close, keep Molly close.
Right.
But it is interesting. I don't know what the story arc is going to be, because we are heading into the 4th episode, and she already knows that there's a conspiracy against her, and so I guess they're going to go on the run somehow. And and you do wonder, is the baby going to be born? Is that going to be like the season finale when the baby is born? We had Cameron Manheim's character, who's the doctor. She goes into the veterinary, the pet rescue or whatever, and does the sonogram, and it's like the best sonogram you've ever seen in your life. It's like, holy cow!
I wanted one like that.
I had no idea, but it is the near future, so I guess in the near future, even like the most lowly vet will have this great sonogram. And it looks very much like a human baby. So, it doesn't have horns or like tentacles or, fangs or anything like that. So one assumes that the baby will be born and will look like a human baby. And so then the question becomes, is it going to be one of these babies like on Falling Skies, the baby who grows, a year in 2 weeks?
The
V
baby.
Something
very similar, yes.
Yeah. So we have a lot of crazy children on television right now.
Yes.
Thank
God they're on television.
We have a lot of interesting, babies on Grimm. There's a crazy baby that was born and now can levitate stuff and has purple eyes. And you have this baby, and you have the child on Falling Skies, who now is an adult, who was born 15 minutes ago.
Well, let me ask you. Let me ask you this question. So, one of the things that is very intriguing about the series are the mysteries. But we've learned from TV shows in the past that if you drag the mysteries out too long, people get irritated, or the mystery isn't quite live up to the anticipation. The X-Files is a show with an alien conspiracy that never really paid off successfully at the end. Do you think that Extant needs to sort of explain what everyone's up to pretty early on, and does it have enough going for it that it doesn't need to rely on us wondering about these things?
You know, it's really hard to tell what kind of show it's going to be yet, because it's either a, you know, if it's a mystery, then I think they've actually given a lot away pretty early. If it's going to be humans fighting, you know, not like a pre-apocalyptic, like prevent the apocalypse, which is what I think it's going to be, then you can get everything moving, because then the fight is, and then you do have to reveal who are we fighting, but you can reveal it in pieces, but you have to feel that that the creators know. I mean, sometimes you get into these shows and you get a feeling that the creators don't really know the end game, and they're making it up as they go along, and that's when you get very frustrated, when you feel like they're just creating problems and then answering them on a very specific level, rather than they sat down and went, okay, here's what's happening and here's how we're going to reveal it. And so that, I think, you know, we will, you know, by the middle of this season, I think you'll have a better feel for that. But it's Spielberg. He, you know, he knows
storytelling.
Doing. Yes, he does. And it's like, and you look at Falling Skies, which I'm a big fan of, and it's like, now they're in a situation where they've had to like switch aliens. They've been bringing in new aliens because the show is, I don't know if it's more successful than they thought it would be. So, but they definitely have a template. Here's what it's, you know, it's humans fighting for survival. And so I don't know if that's where this is going, or if this is going to stay on, you know, whether it's going to be like a question of what is motherhood, what is humanity, you know, what with all the tinkering that we do. I don't know. It's going to be, that alone is interesting.
Well, that question of what is motherhood, they actually touch on that, as you say. You know, she's a working mom. She's been away for a while. She's got to reinsert herself into the family. She's the mother of a strange child who has emotional disconnects. And then
gaps.
Now she has this alien overtaking her.
Right. And then you also have the issue because the father has the associate, who's played by Grace Gummer, who's wonderful, and you can see already that like she feels maternal towards Ethan, and she's like
essentially
she raised that child, and so even when it was just a head,
oh gosh, a head playing games, playing video games,
you know, and then but then you're also, you know, dealing with, well, how, you know, if you can't have a child of your own, how far are you willing to go to have, and what is the family experience? What does it come down to? Does it come down to just, you know, exchanging love, and then does it matter where that love is coming from, or what that is? It a carbon, you know, base form, or a titanium based life form? I mean, does it matter? I mean, all those questions are really, really interesting. So then the question becomes, how does the show deal with it, and does it deal with it in a way that is emotionally resonant, not just like kind of, you know, ooh, this is a nifty thing.
And that's key, I think, to having it sustained long past, you know, all the mystery and the question of what's going on.
What did you think?
I thought it was great. I was intrigued. I'm curious. Like, I think I'm in the same boat as you guys. It's only 3 episodes in, so I think it's still forming itself. And I think this next episode, where the family is on the run from the government agents, will probably do a lot to sort of help us figure out kind of what form the show is ultimately going to take. It takes place in the near future, and one of the things that the show does really great is integrating sort of a version of technology that we're familiar with, but in a slightly different way. And Michelle, I know that
I'm totally digging
captivated by the technology.
I've got my little list here. I liked the multimedia presentation that he did, explaining Ethan, where things just sort of show up in the air to explain it as sort of a PowerPoint gone mad. Oh, it was. I was so excited. I felt like tweeting.
Nobody tweets in Extant, though, so I don't know what that means.
The self-driving car, you know, that takes them to the presentation. In space, we see her manipulating things in the air. She's got a Jarvis-like
where she just
assistant,
or HAL-like. I totally need one of those.
And then the camera that they use projects the picture immediately on the screen behind.
But I should also
apparently,
point out, but despite all this great technology, when she is in space, there is still the ever-present, wall of flashing buttons.
that's
Right.
That is always
I
present
know.
in every
It's so funny.
60s.
And all those weird tubes
Yeah.
and stuff. It's like,
you can't be in space without them.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like the Doctor Who, the old TARDIS is still there.
The one thing that I found interesting is that the car of the future apparently is the electric BMW. So there you go.
There we go. And did you figure out what was going on with their trash?
Oh my God, I
I'm
love the
still
trash.
trying to figure out the trash. I want trash like that. I have no idea what's
You
going
just,
on.
like,
but
So
it's
they
cool.
take it out, and it's sort of in
in a
a
little
steel
weird little
container,
bin,
and there's a
and they
glass.
and it just goes zip.
Zip. And I guess
And then
it
it's
just
empty.
it's like
It
pneumatic
disappears.
tubes. It's sort of
Because it was like after a party, and I'm thinking, I didn't notice they weren't obviously using the red cups. They were using but it's like after a party, there are a lot of napkins and stuff. It wouldn't all fit in a little tiny bin, so something must actually be happening in the kitchen when you put stuff in. It must like decompose it instantly or something.
There's a lot of parties on this show. I think
A
in
lot of parties.
three episodes
Three.
there have been two parties.
Yes.
Right, and she
Yeah.
keeps talking about how tired she is, and then she throws another party, and I'm like, honey, you know why you're tired? Because this is your third party.
She's pregnant, she's back from space, and she's having parties.
Right.
I'd be tired too.
Right.
So go on. Were there more on your list?
Oh, I want a nightlight like the kid has.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. They swipe the light down, and then he's got space and stars just sort of lingering.
Right.
I really would love that nightlight. But those are the things that really resonated with me.
And you said that there was a website where you could go. In reality, there's a website that you can go and create with the Humanics. Is that?
Humanics.
Yes.
You can make a little Ethan. One of the things that I was sort of checking around, and I created my own little Humanics.
And what's her name?
Well, they suggested the name is either Susan, Catherine, Janice, or Natasha. So I'd probably go with
Wow,
Natasha. But you
Natasha.
can create your own little android.
Can you select the creepy behavior that the Humanics will display?
I think that comes with time.
Okay.
Yes, it has to learn the creepy
It
behavior.
comes with its own little pet bird. That
That's
it wants
right.
to trap.
To trap, yes.
It's interesting about the birds. Yeah, it is the birds. It's not like mice or, there's not like a Renfield thing going on.
Right,
But
right.
He's obviously captivated by birds.
Right. So.
I suspect it might have some figurative meaning, some metaphorical meaning about being a captured bird or, flying away, or maybe I'm just projecting.
Right.
I loved when he went to the Natural History Museum, which was our Natural History Museum, and but with the robot I see that you are interested in Paleolithic man.
Yes.
Do you have any? But I kept waiting for that robot to say, "Oh, I know what you are."
Yes, brother.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, that's one kind of interesting thing about the show is it shoots in Los Angeles and
yes.
makes great use of locations, but locations that living in LA, I recognize as every day. And it looks,
Kennethon Park.
Kennethon Park.
Yeah.
Was it the Performing Arts High School that's just north of
Yes.
downtown that has sort of the space age sort of swirl that looks like a futuristic building. I think it's the Yasumoto building in the series. Our Natural History Museum looks very futuristic. I mean, they didn't really change a whole lot. But they added holograms.
Right.
But so do you guys think that it nails what our future will look like pretty well? Is there any false note?
I'm hoping for a little more in the future because it looks like phones are still iPhones and cars are still cars.
They don't use their phones, and that's really interesting.
Yes.
I mean, TV is really interesting with the iPhone. They use it when that's the point, but you don't see characters that reflect what we actually look like now, which is like constantly checking our phones.
Right.
And they don't do it, and they call people. And there's a lot of face-to-face contact, which is really interesting, obviously, because that's what plays better on television. But yeah, it's very retro in that there's a lot
There's no Google Glass.
If you're going to talk to me, we're going to meet
Right.
and talk. There's not like people sending emails and stuff like that.
Or or swiping their glasses.
Right. Which is, but I think that's good. I mean, I think one of the problems with our technology is it makes for boring TV sometimes. It's like, how many times can you watch somebody type something into a screen? It's like. Yeah.
Well, guys, the 4th episode is on tonight. And Louis Gossett Jr. makes an appearance.
Oh, yes.
So it should be interesting. So thanks a lot for watching. And you can follow all of our TV coverage at latimes.com/showtracker.